So, how do you make the network animations? Well, you really need a plan of what you want to try and show. So I think about how I've been teaching networking for many years, typically draw a bunch of computers on the screen, and then I think how I want to connect those computers together, and I want a bus-based network in this case, and each computer connects directly onto the bus. It's just a piece of wire. I want to be able to talk about each computer, so I can talk about a specific one. So I give each computer a number as so. And that's my basic network diagram to start with. So I think about how I want to show our data moving around the network. So I think about having a frame of data here on computer 1 and the frame traversing down onto the bus and then going all the way along the bus to the other end. And obviously, because it's a piece of wire, as the data is going past each junction, it's electrically copied down, and the data frame obviously ends up going down to each PC in turn, so all PCs get a copy of the data frame. Then I think about those data frames once I start needing to put addresses on there, and once I need to start putting addresses on there, then it's going to be the same data frame. So I think about a data frame, but what I need to do is I need to append onto the front end to show the encapsulation, the source address and the destination address. So my frames are going to get some data appended on as they go down onto the network. And I also want to show how the bus network also morphs into a star network, where all the points come together in a star like that. So typically in a classroom situation I'd rub it out and actually draw the star. Well, from a network perspective, what could be quite interesting if I can think about that actually morphing from our bus-based network that we looked at initially, and actually showing the bus kind of getting smaller and all the lines moving in towards the middle. So I can kind of visualize that. I want some animation going on in there. So I've pretty much got it sorted. I want to be able to draw my network. I want to be able to see the network morph from the bus-based network into a star-based network, and I want to be able to draw a frame in the computer, and I want to be able to append to the end of the frame a source address and a destination address. And that's basically giving me all the assets that I need to think about creating in Scratch. So now I know all the assets I need. I've opened up a new file in Scratch. Here's our standard sprite. Certainly don't want the standard sprite, so I'll get rid of that. And I need some sprites for the various things I need to represent. So I'm looking for a computer in the standard sprite library, and I can't see one in there. So what I need to do is go and find an image on the web somewhere. So I'm going to Google, look for clip art laptop, make sure I'm searching on images, and depending where I'm going to use this Scratch animation, I tend to make sure that I'm not infringing anybody's copyright. I'm using images which are labeled for reuse. Have a look around, and in fact there's one up here that looks quite good straight away. I like that image, so I'm going to save that image to my image library. It's coming down as a PNG. That's good. Okay, so that's got my image there in the library. So now when I do a new sprite, I can do a new sprite from image. Here it is. We've just downloaded it. It's called index.png. It doesn't matter about the name for now. Great, looks like a laptop. First thing to do, remember, is make sure you label all your sprites appropriately. So I'm going to call this laptop 1. So that's that sprite there. And looking at it, it's got a bit of a black background, so I need to get that replaced with a transparent color. So make sure I've got my transparent color selected there, and that's got rid of that. It's also a bit big, so I'll quickly just convert it to vector, highlight the whole laptop, and I can shrink it down. Yeah, it looks about the right size that I need on there. Other thing just to make sure is where is it in the coordinate space. I tend to make the XY coordinate somewhere around the center of the device. Okay, so that's got our first sprite sorted out. Okay, so for our next sprite we want to be able to draw the bus. Now you may have seen I'd already got a pencil there. I'll try and open that. Unfortunately it's not the right file type. Scratch will only allow certain types of files to be imported as icons. It's some JFIF format, so I'm just going to go and edit it with whatever programs here on this computer and do a file save as. It looks like I can save it as a JPEG, that's fine. So I've just done the file conversion on that, which now means in Scratch when I come to import it, I'll import the JPEG version, and hey presto, I've got another sprite. Now again we can see that this has actually got a big white background, so that would obscure stuff underneath it, so I need to make sure that I'm going to fill all that space with a transparent colour, that's a slash. Similarly convert it to vector, and I want to be able to draw with this pencil, so it's a bit big really. I'm going to make it a bit smaller and have it at a bit of a jaunty angle so that I can draw with it. Now for this one I must admit the center I'm probably going to put at the point of the pencil there, because when I'm moving this pencil around I'd actually probably like to know where the end of the pencil is, because that's going to draw the line. Okay, so that's it. We've got our two sprites to get going doing our coding. So when we come to start thinking about creating our animation and writing some Scratch code to actually make things happen, we think about where do we want that code to lie. Does it belong with the computer sprite? Does it belong with the pencil sprite? Well, not really. These are just assets that are going to help shape our actual animation. What we need is a new sprite that's not actually going to be displayed on the screen. This sprite is going to be our controller, so make sure again we give it a meaningful name, because that will help us understand what we're doing. So that's our controller sprite, and it's this sprite that's going to run everything that's going on. So we're going to start writing code in the script for our controller sprite. So for the controller sprite to start, typically we do things based on the green flag, but of course it needn't be on the green flag. Now this is going to be the only sprite that starts with the green flag. This is going to control everything else. And the first thing it needs to do really is make sure all the other sprites that we're going to build up in here are all in the right position. And the way we do that is we get this sprite to broadcast a message, and we're going to create a new message, and our message is going to be reset. So this reset message will be sent out and all the other sprites will receive it. So the pencil, what do we want the pencil to do? Well, when it receives reset, certainly we don't want it appearing on the screen, so we're going to hide it out of the way. Laptop 1, what do we want it to do when it receives the broadcast? So when I receive the broadcast reset, what do I want computer 1 to do? Well, I'd like it to be about there on the screen, so I can put it there, and I can say I want its motion to go to that particular point. That's going to set where it starts, so it's in the right place. And obviously, just in case it's been accidentally hidden, what I want to do is make sure that it actually shows up on the screen. So that's my starting point. So my pencil should be hidden, and if I try it, run the controller, hey presto, the computer's in the right place. If it's been accidentally dragged out of the way when I start it, you can see that it gets reset. So that's how we start doing our coding. Now I need a whole bunch of laptops. I want 6, so basically I'll look at taking each of these sprites and duplicating it to make laptop 2. The great thing about this is now with laptop 2, it'll have duplicated that code as well, albeit it'll be in the wrong position. But now I can just go along and I can create my 6 laptops. And all I've got to do is go along in the code and make sure I get each laptop in the right position. Okay, I've done that for all the laptops now, so you can see laptop 1 is at -150, 100. Laptop 2 is at 0, 100. Laptop 3 is at 150, 100. So I've made these numbers quite easy to make sure I get a nice tight grid. So there is my basic setup. That's my reset, remember, for the laptop, so that's where we start. Let's go back to our controller now. So it's broadcast a reset, it now starts needing to do the animation. So I think about what's the first thing that it needs to do? Well, I need now to run the animation. So to keep this bit separate, I actually create a new block called run the animation. And I'm going to put all my animation code in there, and I'm going to actually get the reset then to run the animation. So now in this block of code, this is going to be the animation, and this in itself may have sub blocks in depending on how complex it starts to become. And obviously the first thing I need to do is draw the bus. So knowing that the pencil sprite is going to draw the bus, I've got to get this sprite, the controller, to send a message to the pencil sprite. So again, I go to events and I create a new broadcast, and this broadcast is going to be a new message which will be draw the bus. So the first thing the animation does is draw the bus. It's going to send that out, go to the pencil, and now this needs to pick up that broadcast, and this will be when I receive the message draw bus. What do we want to happen? Well, we now need the pencil sprite back. Now you'll notice the pencil sprite's disappeared. That's because we've hidden it. So just to get it back, I'm just going to bring the show command back on and click it. So there is our pencil. So our pencil sprite, now it actually looks a little bit too big, so I'm going to go back to my costume. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. That looks a bit better. Just make sure the origin is still at the end of the pencil, because that's going to be quite important. So there's our pencil sprite, that's good. And now I need to think about what script this is going to do. Well, I will need to show it, but first of all, I probably want to get the pencil in the right position, which is going to be here under the computer somewhere. It's about that location. So I can just go to the motion and I can say go to that particular location. And again, from the numbers of where this is, I actually know the center should be at -150, so I'm just going to change that. I get the pencil in the right position, I'm going to show it, and then I want the pencil to come down to somewhere in about the middle here, which I can see from my cursor is a Y value somewhere around 0. Obviously I want to do that quite slowly, so I'm going to glide, let's say in about 1 second, down to the same X value. I don't want to change the X value, I want it to be a straight line straight down, and I want it to go down to Y. So that little bit of code now I can test, see if that works. There you go, my pencil goes down. Obviously what I need it to do is I need it to actually draw the line, so I need to do a pen down in there at the start. Which I need to move it first of all, sorry. I need to get it to the right location before I put the pen down, otherwise you get some strange bits of scribbling. Just run that bit of code. And there you go, we get our bus line. We then need to do a whole series of statements down here to get it basically to draw out the whole of our bus network. Okay, so here you go, we've got all our code now for our pencil. You can see I've got the clear sprite. I was using that during development because as I was drawing things, imagine I'll just get this going, I'm going to stop it, something has gone wrong, I just have this clear just to clear the screen. I don't need that now. You can see I've also set the pen color to red and made it slightly thicker, so I'm just going to reset it because that would run, and then I'm going to run this little bit of code to draw the bus, and you can see that our pencil goes away and draws our bus. So that's this little block of code, and that's it, we've got our bus drawn. The next thing is I want to be able to show my data frames moving around, so I need a data frame. So this time I'm actually going to create myself a new sprite. Go and do it as a vector mode because it makes the text easy to edit, have it in black. And I'm just going to have the word data for now, and I want to have a square box to put that in to represent the frame. I'm just going to draw it underneath, make sure it's roughly big enough, and I think I'll fill it with a nice light green colour. So that's it, and I just finally just put the actual words in there. It's going behind, so I need to bring data to the front. And there we go, I've got my sprite now for my data frame. So I can now put my data frame where it needs to go. I think that's a little bit big, not a problem. Just make sure I select everything, and I can just shrink my data frame down a bit, he said. We'll get the right angle, there we go. And there's our data frame to move around the network. And the final thing to do is obviously just make sure where the origin is. Again, tend to put the origin, things like this, somewhere in the center. What we need to do now is program it, so we mustn't forget that the main thing we need to do is we need to reset. So remember, this is broadcast at the start. When I receive reset, what we must do is make sure this is hidden. So we can just run our bit of code now. And it's an interesting one, so it's actually not redrawn and cleared the lines from the last animation. So what we need to do is to go to our pencil, and as well as hiding the pencil when we start, what we need to do is make sure any previous pen is actually cleared as part of the reset process. So I'll make sure that's done as well on our script. There we go. And obviously our new data frame shouldn't arrive. So what does that mean? It means we need to go to the controller and we need to think about what the next thing is. So after drawing the bus, our next thing is really we need to send our data. So again, we want to create a broadcast event. We're going to broadcast a message, make a new message, and I'm going to call this send the data. Get my terminology right, it's a frame, so send data frame, and that needs to be received by the actual data frame sprite. So now when I receive the send data frame message, what do I need to do? Well, I need to make sure, now you can see it's disappeared again, so I just need to go to its looks, because obviously we've hidden it, and run the show command. So I brought it on, I can just show it, there it is. So obviously that needs to go in there. I want my data frame to start up here at the beginning. So if I move it there, I can now go and get the motion command and get the go XY position, which I'm just going to correct to -150 because I know that's where the center of that sprite is. I need to go there, and from there it needs to glide down to about there, and I can just go and grab the glide command because that will have picked up the new XY coordinates, and obviously it's going to continue from there. So we can check now if our code works. So let's run our code from the start. That's rather weird. The data frame appeared at the start during the drawing of the bus command, and I've put this in to show you this particular thing that lots of people are unaware of. Basically what's happened is the controller has broadcast the draw bus message. That bit of code has gone on running and drawn the bus, but the main sprite, the controller sprite, has immediately gone on to the next command, which is to broadcast send data frame. So while the draw bus one is running, it's already running the next command, and lots of people get caught out by that. What we actually need to do when we're doing a animation like this is in our events, we don't need to just broadcast the command, but we need to do the broadcast and wait, and the wait will wait until the draw bus code is finished with that particular sprite. So similarly with our data frame one, because something's going to be following that, we need to make sure we broadcast send data frame. So make sure you always get rid of any unnecessary code, and let's have a look at that, see if that now works. So hey presto, we're drawing our data bus, then the data frame appears and it comes along, and we just continue with our sprites like that, building up the animation as per our initial design. And basically our run animation here will grow and grow and grow and be a series of broadcast commands sending it out to activate different sprites to appear and to move. If we were going to do the animation of the bus here into the star topology, we'd need a new sprite for that, and that new sprite will basically have a series of costumes varying from this initial bus to the star topology, and when we run that it will basically just switch costumes and morph the bus into the star topology. And that's basically how you go along and create these animations. I hope that's been useful and you have lots of fun playing with the ones that we've created, maybe reordering things. Okay, thanks, bye.